Aaron was at Greystanes for 15 years before the move to here. Yes, he is. Come on, let's go and see him. I made a decision when Aaron was 7 to put him into Greystanes. That would singularly be the hardest decision I have ever made in my entire life. Once you do place your child somewhere and it works, why would you want to change it? You wouldn't. I didn't, and even though I was sort of on the committee pushing for group homes, but still, at the end of the day, I was very comfortable with Aaron being where he was. I knew the staff, they knew me. Greystanes was actually quite a good place to be. There was registered nurses on duty 24/7. He had physiotherapy, speech therapy. All the resources were there. There was a spa pool. So it was quite a nice place, and I felt quite comfortable, and I felt that Aaron was getting really good care. The group and the organisation decided that it would be in the best interest of our children to be in the community and to live in a smaller community setting as a group home. At the time, my fears were, why fix something that's not broken? Because Greystanes did seem to work quite well at the time. And I think most people whose children were at Greystanes at that time felt the same way. There was quite a bit of fear around staff. Being in a big organisation, I guess people felt that there was an element of safety for their children because there wasn't just one person in control of looking after 4 people or 3 or 4 people. So quite a few people had concerns about sexual abuse, that their child might be more vulnerable in that area because there would be one person in a group home situation at night times. People were concerned that the medical treatment that was available at Greystanes wouldn't be available in a group home. And of course, they were worried about funding because the government had said, that this funding was an ongoing thing. But people were concerned at that time that whilst the present government was all for it, if there was a change of government, would they be as generous and would there be funding, cuts in funding? So those were the main fears that I guess myself and all the other parents of Greystanes had at that time. Going back to the fears that I mentioned, none of them were substantiated. There's been no evidence of any of those things that people were fearful of. Staff have ongoing training, like when the staff was interviewed for Aaron, for this home, I actually interviewed the staff that were going to be working here. So, if you want to, and it depends on the level that you want to get involved, you can have quite a lot of say. I picked out the furniture, the red lounge in the lounge room. I went shopping with, one of the nurses and we picked out the furniture together. So you've got a lot more say in your child's life. You have a lot more say just in everyday things that when he was at Greystanes we didn't have those says and those rights because they have rules and guidelines. Well, you can't do this and you can't do that. But here it is like a family home. I think the best thing has been for him is that he's got more community access. He's in a home where, he was one of 37 at Greystanes. Now he's one of 4. That in itself tells you that his care, his communication with others is sort of greater than what it was at Greystanes. It's like people push for a smaller classroom. We all want our kids in a small classroom, We don't want them in a class of 40 kids or 37 kids because they will learn better, they function better, their futures are brighter, and it's the same here. He can sit in his room, he can watch the cricket in privacy, he can have his own time. They all can, they've all got their own rooms. The benefits are just that his life is now more like a 26-year-old person without a disability. So he's living a more normal life in a home, in a suburb, in a street. Yeah, instead of being sort of in an institution, behind closed doors. it's easier to take out, 3 or 4 children, or adults, I should say, than trying to get 37 people out. So they all take turns. They were like, well, so-and-so went out last week, so it's so-and-so's turn to go out this week. Being in such a small group, you don't have to do that. When the weather's okay, one of the carers might take him to a cricket game. He actually became a member of the Lura cricket team, even though he doesn't play cricket, but he was their mascot for the year, and he went to their cricket presentation, and, there's a photo of Aaron with the team, and he just thought it was wonderful, he was so excited about that, and that the community has embraced him as well. That wouldn't have happened at Greystanes, not because they didn't want that to happen. It's just that the system wouldn't allow that to happen. Would you like a drink? You do? You want your drink? Okay then. I think Aaron feels a sense of independence. I think he senses that he has more freedom. And I think he senses and knows that he can express himself, be it positively or negatively, without there being any repercussion. So he's become, he's allowing his personality to come out, like in making demands on people, and also sort of saying, well, enough is enough, leave me alone. Whereas he wouldn't have had that. That wouldn't have been allowed to develop in a place where there were so many people. And so he's confident to express himself. They have access to call the registered nurse who will come down, have a look. I know that the nurses do a visit sort of on a monthly basis, so they come into the homes, they check everything. Most of the people who are carers here have first aid certificates. A lot of them have got their certificates in disability services, so that, and that was one of my concerns. That was definitely one of my concerns, was that, here we had this Greystanes, with medical people on board, and moving from that to just having people with first aid certificates. But in the 3 or 4 years that Aaron's been in a group home, he's been hospitalised once, and he was taken to hospital by one of the carers because she thought he'd aspirated some of his food. She took him, and it was in the middle of the night. We had to meet her up here at Katoomba Hospital, which we did. He had an x-ray, he hadn't aspirated anything, and he came home. So I couldn't have asked for, better care than that. And if he had been at Greystanes, there was one person or 2 people for 37 kids. So that, they might not have sort of picked that up and for a few 4 hours later. So I think it's, in one way, it's safer in a group home in terms of medical, providing that you have those backup services around the home. Everything is monitored and closely monitored, so that if there was to be a loss of half a kilo, people would start questioning why. It's not perfect, but nothing ever is perfect, like in a situation like this, because we're dealing with, children with, or adults, I should say, with complex needs, and there's no way that I would say that this situation is perfect. I personally have had just a few issues that I've had to deal with, and one of them was around feeding. And I was able, luckily, to get a second opinion on this particular situation, and actually come to a compromise with the staff and, the sort of the powers that be, if you like, to compromise, what is best for Aaron in terms of feeding. Aaron attends the post-school options program, which is run at the old Greystanes building. So he goes there every day. He does things like music appreciation and cooking, and he has computer access.
Do you want to do the switch games or the puzzle games? Hit your trade if you want the switch games. Alright, that's what we'll do then. So,
they're trying to teach him switches and, turning on and off the computer, and trying to get a communication program up and running with him. But Aaron's basic interests are all related to fun and happiness. he has a pretty good life. You know, they go out, yeah, bowling, swimming. Yeah, does more than me actually. Everything in life where there's progress and change, there's an element of fear associated with that.
I'll see you next week, okay?
People like Aaron can't bring anything into being for themselves, so it's people like their parents and carers that do that for them. So it might be difficult to do that, but you have to do it. To make the world for them a better place, you have to make those decisions, because if people didn't make those decisions, our children would still be locked behind closed doors and never see the light of day.